Has a game ever changed you? Why would you put your life on hold to play a game about life? And is it fair to name your kid after a game character? Get ready for the answers to those questions and more, because we're about to break down the games that changed gaming forever right here, right now on Filter. Diane Mizota, and welcome to Filter, a hand-picked top 10 video game countdown as voted on by you, the viewer, at G4TV.com. They took us from the arcade to the living room. They took us from stick figures to animated sprites. And they took us from fun to stun and beyond. In short, they're the games that changed gaming forever. And because of them, video games are no longer just a diversionary outlet for the play-thirsty. Now they're a way of life. So just how did these games change our lives, and how did they change the way we game? Let's scratch the surface.
For a game to change gaming forever has to be innovative. That's the main thing. It has to present something new to the gaming public that they haven't seen before.
It's just got to blow people away from the get-go. Once you load that game, it's got to be genre-busting. You've got to be able to look at this game and say, oh my god, I've never seen anything like that before.
It has to, give you something new to keep you coming back, and just something that you'll play, for years to come.
20 years from now is really hard to predict. When you think back what gaming was like 20 years ago, the Atari 2600 era, pretty much, it was before NES came out.
In 20 years, photorealism is, we're pretty close now, but by then it'll be almost lifelike.
In 20 years, the world of gaming is going to be absolutely phenomenal, and I think I'm going to be sitting in my wheelchair playing whatever's out at the time.
So there's a head start on the heady games that changed the face of gaming. Now it's time to profile the 10 games that did it better than anyone else. We kick off the countdown with a tale of intergalactic treachery, Nintendo style. Released in 1987 for the NES, Metroid was the first game to supersize horizontal and vertical platform play via non-linear interconnected game zones. Not sure what the hell that really means, but I do know that Metroid comes in 10th place.
Metroid at number 10 changed gaming forever because it had a very openness to the way that you could play. Up until that time, a lot of games forced you to go from the left to the right, and you couldn't go back.
What really changed games in that is that it was one big interlinked world. You could take what you've gotten later in the game, go backwards, and apply some of that to the places you'd seen but couldn't reach.
It had a huge map to explore, and even better than that, it had upgrades you could find, so your character progressed as you went through the game. There were just so many play mechanics that came up from the power-ups you got, and the huge world to explore. It was an adventure, really. That's why we think of it as an adventure game. It was the first adventure game, in my opinion.
Samus made a public spectacle of whipping space pirate butt, and while the star of our next game was kicking his fair share, it was all on the down low. Solid Snake may have made his debut in 1988, but it wasn't until 1998 that the world really took notice of him with the release of Metal Gear Solid, when the sneaky bastard managed to work his way into 6 million living rooms. Hideo Kojima's brilliant brushstroke embarrassed its competitors' previous efforts to comp a stealth angle and served as the inspiration for countless imitations. That inspired us to hand over the 9 spot. was also lauded for its immersive cinematic experience and gripping story. But sometimes the story just doesn't matter. Sometimes a man's just gotta fight. Enter Street Fighter 2. The game was single-handedly responsible for introducing nations of game players to the concept of fighting games. And since no 7-Eleven was without one, it also helped push Slurpee sales through the roof. The pugilist pleaser grabs a sugary chokehold on the 8 spot.
I think Street Fighter 2, the arcade version, should at least be number 8, because that is the quintessential fighting game out there.
Street Fighter was extremely influential because it brought all these kids out and it made everyone, fight each other. It was definitely a very social game.
It was just such a great game. It was the first game you'd go to the arcade or go to the 7-Eleven or wherever it was after school, and people would just congregate, putting their quarters on the screen, just waiting, beat all your friends and get bragging rights. It was, an amazing experience.
Relationships were strained and jobs were lost as arcade junkies spent months trying to master the special moves. And while Street Fighter 2 may have wreaked havoc on your personal life, were there other games that affected you even more? When we come back from the break, we'll take a look at games that changed gamers forever. Plus, we'll keep counting down the games that changed gaming forever. Is Mario a shoe-in to win the top spot? Or does an unnamed mobster drive a boot up his butt? Find out when Filter returns.